You know, the king once said they can say what they like, but not on my land. If you come here on a Sunday, you'll see people standing on a small box, soapbox, or a small set of steps. It gets quite heated here on a Sunday. This area around the Marble Arch, many years ago, it was known as Tyburn. Tyburn was our place of public execution. It's estimated between 1193 and 1783 that up to 50,000 people were publicly executed here at the Tyburn Tree. The Tyburn Tree consisted of 3 poles where you could hang up to 21 people simultaneously. You know, public execution here in London was meant to act as a deterrent, but many of those executed here at Tyburn were treated like heroes. When Jack Sheppard was executed here, over 200,000 people turned up to see him publicly executed. The prisoners to be executed here at Tyburn would be brought down on a horse and cart down the Tyburn Way. Now, the Tyburn Way would have been the street directly in front of the bus, but today that street is known as Oxford Street, and probably London's busiest shopping mall, 1.5 miles long. Gets very busy here on Oxford Street, particularly on a Saturday.
The umbrella shop. Oh yeah.
Yes, Oxford Street forms a dogleg with Regent Street, Oxford Circus, where
Horse's head. Yeah.
many designer brands have their stores located on Regent Street. So that's the Marble Arch over to your right. Queen Victoria couldn't drive her carriage through the middle. I don't believe it.
Sounds like someone we
She
know.
didn't like the arch, so she had it moved. To be quite honest with you, if that was sitting in front of my house, I'd have it moved too. We're going to head down Park Lane this afternoon. Park Lane, well, has many prestigious hotels here on Park Lane today, but you know, the reason that most of you have heard of Park Lane is because it's the second most expensive property on the Monopoly board. Yes. So, if that's correct, what's the most expensive property on the Monopoly board?
Marvin Gardens?
Park Place.
Is it?
The most expensive property on the Monopoly board is Mayfair. And by the way, Mayfair is an area to your left behind these buildings. The Queen was born in Mayfair back in 1926. Very nice area to live. But by the way, if you happen to live in the United States, of course, your most expensive property is Boardwalk.
Oh yeah.
Now, Boardwalk is a few planks of wood on the beach at Atlantic City. As to why it's the most expensive property, I'm not too sure. It must be very expensive real estate there in Atlantic City. So, let's head down Park Lane this afternoon.
Building back in?
Let's have a look at some of these hotels.
Oh yeah.
And well, let's begin with the hotel coming up on your left. It's the Grosvenor House Hotel. Has the largest ballroom of any of our hotels here in London. It seats 2,500 people. The Grosvenor House Hotel. Oh, to give it its official name, it's the Grosvenor Marriott today. Yes, the Grosvenor Marriott, or the Marriott Grosvenor. Doesn't quite have the same ring, does it really, as the Grosvenor House?
Yep.
Now the second hotel coming up here on your left is the Dorchester Hotel. Sylvester Stallone got married here at the Dorchester, up on the roof. I'm not quite sure which wife that was, one of them. It's a very prestigious hotel, the Dorchester. but it will cost you just a little bit more to stay here at the Dorchester than it would if you were stopping at the Holiday Inn Express. And hotel number 3 coming up on your left. This very tall building over to your left is the London Hilton Hotel. Now, it said the Queen wasn't very happy about this building when it first opened because she believed that people that had rooms at the very top could look down into her back garden. Yes, the gardens of Buckingham Palace. I'll be telling you about those gardens very shortly. Now, I told you earlier that the Duke of Wellington lived in the building over to your right, Wellington House. He became so unpopular when he opposed the reform laws here in Britain that crowds would gather at the house and throw stones at the building. In order to protect his windows, he had metal shutters placed over them, and this was how he earned the nickname the Iron Duke. Just over to your right, these metal stakes you can see rising above the ground, a memorial to the dead of New Zealand from both World Wars. These metal stakes represent the haka, and it's called the Southern Cross.
Southern Cross. Yeah, you can see the crosses.
Now, many years ago, the Duke of Wellington could be seen at the very top of the Wellington Arch, also known as Constitution Arch. So let's talk about the palace just for a moment. Buckingham Palace, home and office to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, our second longest reigning monarch. And the gardens of Buckingham Palace, the largest private gardens here in central London. You'll be able to see the gardens of the palace if you look over here to your left. And if you look through the trees here, you'll see tennis courts, where some years ago John McEnroe and Leon Ball played an exhibition match for Her Majesty. The barbed wire fence that runs along the perimeter wall was placed here after an incident back in the early 80s. Yes, when Michael Fagan climbed over the wall just here, he managed to enter the Queen's bedroom. And once there, he had a very long conversation with the Queen. He was there for almost half an hour, during which he asked for a light for his cigarette. The Queen was very obliging, of course. She called her staff downstairs and knew that she didn't smoke, of course. So they sent up the security men to remove Michael Fagan. Now, Michael Fagan was fined for being drunk and disorderly. Yes, indeed. Today Michael Fagan has changed his name to Terry. He drives a bus for the original tour, and he's given up the drink on Tuesday mornings. Now, I'd only tell you that, of course, when the bus is stationary, because if the bus was moving, it tends to rain quite hard at that point. Now, we're going to head into an area of London known as Victoria and then Belgravia, and before we make our way to our main stop at Buckingham Palace in about 10 minutes or so. So, Victoria first, named after our longest reigning monarch, Queen Victoria. She reigned from 1837 to 1901. Many of our Commonwealth countries have places named after that particular Queen, Victoria. But Victoria in London, mainly known for its transport connections, gets very busy here, particularly on a Friday, as the rush hour approaches. Victoria Underground Station, the second busiest station on the London Underground network. The London Underground, by the way, was the very first underground railway system to open back in 1863, with a service between Baker Street and Farringdon.